Okay, so here on number 11, all right, this is a tricky question. Take a look at this. When we take the 50 states and record the number of Boy Scouts in each state, and 10 years later we record the number of men who committed crimes in each state, we find that states with a larger number of Boy Scouts also have a larger number of crimes committed, and those states with fewer Boy Scouts also have fewer crimes committed. This is true data. True data. I'm not making this up. So let me show you what I mean. If we go for the various states and we have number of Boy Scouts, and then 10 years later, 10 years later, oops, scribbly there. 10 years later, number of criminals. Well, here's what we find. Let me just make up some data. So, so in the state of California, I'll just do these in like, I don't know, millions of Boy Scouts and millions of criminals, or maybe I don't know if it's millions, thousands of criminals, maybe. Sorry, I'm kind of messing this up here. Okay, so millions of Boy Scouts, so maybe we have, I don't know, 7.6 million Boy Scouts, and 10 years later, maybe we have 5.6 thousand criminals in the state of California. And then if we do something like New York, and we have 6.2 million Boy Scouts, and we have maybe 5.9 million criminals. I don't know. And then in a place like Vermont, we only have 0.6 million Boy Scouts, and 10 years later, right? This is always 10 years later. You have Boy Scouts and they grow up. 10 years later, we have only 1.1 thousand criminals in the state of Vermont. And then like in Montana, maybe we have 0.8 million Boy Scouts, and 10 years later we have 0.9 thousand criminals in the state of Montana. All right, so that's, I'm just making up numbers, but generally that's true. What I'm saying is not false. It's generally true that states that have, like California and New York, they have more Boy Scouts, and 10 years later, they also have more criminals. Whereas Vermont and Montana, they have less Boy Scouts, and 10 years later, they also have less criminals. So, what does that mean? The Boy Scouts are causing kids to grow up as criminals. No, that's not true. But it sure looks like that at first, doesn't it? What I want to show you right now is how easy it is to lie with statistics. This is probably the most important thing I'm going to show you in this homework, is how easy people can lie to you with statistics, right? What I'm saying is true data. It is true that states that have more Boy Scouts 10 years later have more criminals. States that have less Boy Scouts 10 years later have less criminals. That's true. But what's not true is Boy Scouts are making it happen. But doesn't it seem like it? Can you see somebody on a website or a politician arguing and saying, look, here's the data. Numbers don't lie. Statistical study. States with more Boy Scouts 10 years later, more criminals. States with less Boy Scouts 10 years later, less criminals. We got to get rid of the Boy Scouts. Close them down. They are causing kids to grow up as criminals. No, I mean, that data is true. Yes, that data is true, but no, it's not. It doesn't mean the Boy Scouts are causing. Why? What's going on here? Association is not the same as causation. What's happening? It's California and New York have higher population, right? That's all that's going on here. You probably figured that out already. California and New York, they have more everything, right? We in California and New York, we're huge states. Yeah, we have more Boy Scouts, and we have and we have more criminals. We also have more honest people. We have more Girl Scouts. We have more everything. We've just got more. That's just population, right? Then Vermont and Montana, those states don't have nearly as many people as we do. Way, way, way smaller. So yeah, they have less Boy Scouts and less criminals. They also have less honest people. They have less everything. It's not that Boy Scouts are causing people to become criminals. This study is just reflecting, because they went state by state and they just gave the number. Now, if they did percentage, that would be different, but they didn't do percentage. You see how they were tricky? They just said the number. But if they did percentage, if we found out that, states that have a higher percentage, that would be a different story. But yeah, just numbers, that's just ridiculous. That's just population. It's not that the Boy Scouts are causing people to become criminals. It's just states that have a bigger population have more everything. More Boy Scouts, more criminals, more honest people. It doesn't mean the Boy Scouts are causing people to become criminals. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful. See how easy it is for somebody to lie to you, sounding so well-informed and scientific. No, you have to understand that just because two things are associated, connected, doesn't mean one of them is causing the other. Boy Scouts are not causing people to become criminals. Number of Boy Scouts and number of criminals are connected, associated by population, not by causation. All right, let's go down to number 13. It's the same thing here. Let me just give you the answer in advance. Association is not causation. This one is also kind of tricky. A worldwide study on bottled water revealed the following. This is again true data. Again, true data. That is what? Those who drink bottled water die of cancer much more than those who have never had bottled water even one time. That's actually true. So is bottled water causing cancer? That's what it looks like, right? I'm telling you, this is the truth. Those who drink bottled water die of cancer more than those who have never had bottled water even one time in their life. That is true. That is true. Those who have had bottled water die of cancer much more often. That's true. I'm not exaggerating. This is real data. Than those who have never had bottled water even once. But that does not mean, no is the answer to this. That does not mean bottled water is causing it. Well, how can that be? Doesn't it look like it? See how tricky this is? Doesn't it look like it at first? Those who don't have bottled water, it's where you got to be careful. Here's the secret. Here's what's happening. Who has never, I mean, even once in their life, those who have never had bottled water even one time usually live in impoverished countries, right? Africa, places like that, right? You've all had bottled water. Probably everybody you know, probably almost everybody in the state of California, almost everybody in the United States has had bottled water at least one time. So who are these people who have never had bottled water even one time? They live in very impoverished countries, comma. You may say, okay, so what? What about the cancer? So they often die young of malnutrition or infections, right? Because they don't have basic medicine or basic nutrition. So, okay, so what? What about cancer? So they do not grow old and never have a chance to die of cancer. You get it? It's not that bottled water is causing cancer. It's that people that never have bottled water ever, even once in their life, they usually live in impoverished countries. So they die young of malnutrition. So they never even have a chance to die of cancer because they don't grow old. You know, usually people die of cancer when they're older. Not always. There's, of course, always some sad stories of some who die younger with cancer, but usually the great majority who die of cancer die older. So this isn't bottled water causing cancer. This is bottled water, and no bottled water has to do with where you live. Impoverished countries, they don't live old, they don't die of cancer. So again, I want to give you the same principle. Just because two things are associated does not necessarily mean one is causing the other. You have to be careful. People can lie to you very easily. See how convincing this sounds at first when you don't examine it more carefully? Now, I will explain in a little bit on another tutoring question how you know when one thing does cause the other. How do we figure out when one thing is actually causing the other? I'll show you. You've got to do what's called an experiment. But not this. This is not it. This is just association. Bottled water is just associated with cancer. It's not causing it. The connection is malnutrition and infection in impoverished countries. So there we go.